I had never met him before, but just his presence and his energy, the way that he was conducting himself, I said, I need to get to know that guy. So over the last couple of years, or the last year, I had a wonderful opportunity to get to know Brad. And what you're going to discover about Brad is, number one, he's a real passionate guy. He's really committed to what difference he wants to make in this world. But he does that from a standpoint of not only what he's doing on the outside world from a professional standpoint, but he has a tremendous heart-centeredness about wanting to do the right thing with his family. And being a father myself, when I hear his story about how he works with his children, what his vision is for how he really wants to come at life from a wholehearted standpoint, not just being effective in the professional world, but bringing that whole balance together and help others learn to do that too. I'm in awe. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, Brad Billingsley.
Thanks, Chris. So imagine building your career for years and years, honing your craft, honing your trade, going through the struggles and the difficulties that the professional world could throw at us at times, but staying with it, persevering. And imagine starting to reach that pinnacle of success, financially making more money than you ever could imagine, getting the accolades, really having it all, and then having it all crash down around you and realize that all the things that you were focused on and committed to were not the things that mattered most. So good morning, my name is Brad Billingsley. I cannot tell you how excited I am to be here with all of you. There are so many familiar faces in this audience. There's some of my incredible mentors. There's some longtime friends and coworkers. There's new friends. There's college buddies. There's coworkers. And there's so many people that I know are important to the partnership and each of the people that I care so deeply about, and they care about all of you. So what a special opportunity for us to be together. When the partnership asked, what, Brad, would you like to share? What would be something that would be meaningful to you? I went to, I'll start talking about some business practices, or maybe it's something around sales, or I started to get into that business mind, which I can get in. And when I really was true to myself, I realized that I've got a story to share that is hard to tell and has been emotional for me, but it's true and it's real. And I'd like to share that story with you. I'd like to then take you through a very powerful experience that was shared with me by a very special coach in my life, and allow us all to really reflect on what matters most in our life and how can we honor that. So about, call it the early 2000s, I'd already had about 10, 15 years of sales and business experience. Had done well, had some exciting times in the dot-com, starting up companies and unfortunately shutting them down. And I went to a new firm where I was a partner in this firm, and I had a chance to really create an amazing future. What that looked like is it was in the insurance business, and I had a chance to build clients all over the country and really all over North America. I had clients throughout Mexico and clients up in Canada as well. And through that time, I poured my heart and soul into it. And I found tremendous success. It was one of the fastest growing successful people within the company over the first few years. And it was fun because we'd go to sales meetings, we'd go to the actual annual sales conference, and we'd look at the results and we'd talk about the accolades. And I was part of that. It was one of the rising stars, and that felt great. That really stoked my ego. And then, a couple years later, Jack and Reese came into my life. They're a little older here, but Reese was born, and a couple years later, Jack was born. And all of a sudden, life had a different perspective. I was still very committed to my success at work, but coming home and having little Reese sit on my lap, or Jack want to throw the football around, all of a sudden, that felt great. 2008, 2009 occurred. Who experienced the crushing impact of the financial markets, the real estate markets, and the economy? Did anyone in this audience feel any of that? It was tough. For me, I had focused most of my career in the construction and real estate space and the development space here in Colorado. That's where most of my clients were. And within the period of about 4 or 5 months, my business shrunk by about 55%. My expenses went up, but my business shrunk. So what did I do? I dug in. I got tough. I got disciplined. I made more calls, right? You and I made a lot of calls together. We were right in the thick of it together, Steve. And before I knew it, I was having success, right? Hey, I'm tough. I can persevere. Success looked like being in a plane at 6 a.m., sometimes 2 times a week. It meant being in a hotel in some distant city. And because of the area I was focused on, most of that was East Coast and West Coast, so they were typically 2-day trips, sometimes longer. And as I was starting to build back up my business and my practice, what was happening inside is I was absolutely crumbling. Because the more success I had from a business perspective, the further I was away from the things that mattered the most to me. And it came to a head one night when I was putting Reese to bed. She was just a little one. And she put her head on my shoulders and I was saying her prayers. And I'd been gone that whole week. I was gone the week before. And she said, "Dada, when are you ever going to smile at me again?" Up till that moment, I was thinking about my meeting with my CEO the next day. I was thinking about the 3 deals that I was trying to close. I was thinking about the calls that I needed to make that next day to build the business back up so that I could be successful, so I could show the world, look at me, look what I'm able to do. And yet the thing that mattered the most to me in my whole world, my little baby girl, Reese, my son, my wife, I was physically there sometimes, but I was so detached, right? So in that moment, I promised her, starting right now, Reese, I'm going to start smiling. The next day I went in and I spoke to my CEO, remains a dear friend. All the partners in the firm are still very dear friends, and told him, look, my head's in the game, but my heart's no longer in it. Hardest, most scary conversation I think I've had, at least in a professional sense. So I resigned that next day and began my journey. No idea what lay ahead. Keep in mind, we're talking, this is like mid to late 2009. People aren't hiring. There's no jobs. You want to go start a company? Who's going to buy from you? And meanwhile, I've got a wife that's working herself to try to do her part and 2 little kids to take care of. But I was following my heart, and I had an incredible family that supported me. So at that time, I began to work with an amazing man named Zane Robertson. He's a life coach, and through the conversations, he asked me 2 questions. One was, what do you want? What are you doing? What was this whole business thing about? My comment was, well, if I could just make it 10 more years, and I'll make X million, and then I could retire. Right? And then, you know what I want to do? I want to start a foundation. I want to raise money, be able to give it back to underprivileged kids. That's in my heart. That's the vision. And he goes, great. He goes, what if you don't get there? What if you don't get there? I was only about late 30s at the time, but what sunk in is there's no guarantees. What he was saying is, the next question, when are you going to start living your life for today? So in combination with my precious little daughter asking a very innocent little question, because he just wanted more daddy time, and this amazing man that really challenged me to step into living, he then took me on a journey. And one of the most powerful journeys that he took me on was something that I'd like to share with you now. So, on each of your tables, there is a stack of sticky notes. And what I'd like is grab the sticky notes and get 6. Each of you get 6 sticky notes and just put them out in front of you on your table. And if you need a pen, there are pens in the background, in the back of the room. Yeah. And the way that they're accordions, Jack, my 7-year-old, assured me that was way cooler than when they all go the same way. He's very much a part of that decision. So what I'd like you to do is on the 6 sticky notes in front of you, I'd like you to write down the 6 things that matter most to you in your life. 1 per sticky note. The 6, they very well may be your values. These are your non-negotiables. These are the things that are most core to you. So ideally, a word, it could be a very short phrase. One for me, as you're getting a very strong sense, is family. Family to me is absolutely central and core. So write out those 6 things. And as you get those written down, I'd like you to just take a moment to connect with what those mean to you in your life. So really connect with those 6 things. Just connect with whatever those 6 things, just really internalize what these mean and represent for you. Everyone have their 6? Raise your hand if you need another moment. Couple, okay. What I'd like you to do now is I'd like you to go through your 6 values or non-negotiables. And I'd like you to choose the one that you're most willing to give up. Grab it and just hold on to it. And here's what I invite you to do. You could say this to yourself, either under your breath or however you'd like to do it in your mind. As important as you are to me, whatever that is, I choose to let you go. And then just drop it on the floor. Don't rip it or tear it. Just drop it on the floor. Everyone got it? So I just heard a comment, I can't do it. Some of you may be saying, no, I don't want to do that. And that's fine. Truly, you are all at choice in this, and there's no right or wrong. This isn't a trick. I'll just say that. What I will say is if you do choose to go through the exercise, there is value to it, but each of you is at choice. I now invite you to go through your 5 remaining and choose one more that you're most willing to let go. And as important as you are to me, I choose to let you go. I invite you to choose one more. Usually the point where people start revolting and throwing stuff at me. And as important as you are to me, I choose to let you go. One more. Choose one more, and as important as you are to me, whatever it is, I choose to let you go. So we should be at the top 2. We at the top 2? Those represent the 2 things that are the most central and core to you. Okay? I invite you to choose one more. And as important as you are to me, I choose to let you go. Don't rip. And that leaves you with your most central, most core value, the thing that matters the absolute most to you individually. My invitation is to choose to let it go. Again, choice. And there's no games here. There's no trick. My invitation is to choose to let that go. Take a moment to really connect with what life feels like when the things that matter most to you are gone. Okay? Okay, I now invite you to bring those back into your life, however you'd like, one by one. All of them. Connect with each one as you bring them back in, please. Welcome them back in. Connect with what that represents for you and for your life. They were never gone. It's a silly exercise. But welcome them back in as if you have a whole new perspective, love, and connection to whatever that is. So we'll have an opportunity now as tables. We're not going to do this as the whole group, but as tables to be able to talk about what we just experienced. And I'd encourage you as a table, talk about what did I experience with this exercise? What I've found is it's different for every person that goes through it, and I've taken probably thousands of people through this by this point. Very personal. Where do you have an opportunity to bring more alignment of your core values into your life? And perhaps most important, and the theme for today from all these presentations is, what is the one commitment you will make today to better align your life with your core values? So we're going to take about 15, 20 minutes to be able to talk this through at the tables. And I'll walk around, and if anybody wants to either share or ask a question, let's do so. So please, share with your tables. I'm going to try to lighten it up a little bit at the end. I'm the heavy guy. And there's something to be discussed about that. I love it. Love it. Taking notes, thinking. Discussions, giving them help, so if it gets them off track.
They seem to be really engaged.
Yeah. It's heavier than it's ever felt before. Everyone's kind of, it's like Are they going to be here for the reception?
I'm not sure.
That's awesome.
Nice job, guy.
Thanks, man.
I've never seen you do your thing.
Oh, no?
No, I've heard about you.
Oh, thanks.
You got a good room.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Powerful.
Where? Yeah? Oh, yeah, I can tell. Nice. You want to go back there? You want to go behind you?
Okay. Well, so the good news is the lightness has returned to the room. I had a few folks kind of look at me going, oh my gosh, that's some pretty heavy stuff, Brad. And it is. At least it was for me as I went through that exercise. When Zane took me through that several years ago, it hit me like a Mack truck. And the cool part was that I was at a place in my life where I was willing to embrace it and to be able to say, you know what, enough. It's time to step into those things that matter most to me. My faith, my family, my freedom, my adventure, my integrity, my desire to serve in an authentic way. So I said earlier that I wasn't going to call on the room, but I would. There's such great energy in this room. I would like to ask for a few courageous individuals to just share any of the things that are up here or whatever's on your heart, having gone through this exercise, having been able to connect with folks in a real meaningful way. Perhaps you're willing to share what one commitment you'll make to align with the things that matter most to you. Who'd be willing to share? Yes.
Well, first I want to thank you because I think one of the most amazing things about this kind of work is how in 15 minutes we completely transform what's most important, and that I think this is a tool to be able to redo that and redo that and redo that and have a breakthrough at any moment. So that's really cool. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I think for me personally, it's to not force, how do I say this? To not try and force a life into what I want to create, but to create a life into what we want for my wife and I. So instead of trying to match moving parts to make it fit what we want, to actually start to create from the beginning together. So
That is powerful. Get real clear on what you want to create and then committed to it. Awesome. Yes.
So I came at it from a different perspective because my background is exactly like yours, where I was working all the time and my 1-year-old didn't come to me and I quit my job the next day. So in the last 15 years, I've worked incredibly hard to create a life that embodies all of my values. And when I was asked to put things on the floor, I got so mad. I was really mad at you. And I got like this sick feeling in my stomach. No, I worked so hard to create this. I am not letting it go. And so that I realized how much of a hold that has on my life. So I come at it from a bit of a different perspective. But I thought it was a very powerful exercise and it reminds me of why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Beautiful. That is awesome. Thank you so much. So, I'm going to say this even on camera back there. When I went through this, I called Zane a son of a bitch because I was pissed. I was. In fact, so much so that we had to have a bit of a discussion because I was starting to shut down. Why? Because the questions that he was asking me were so central to what mattered and how out of alignment that I'd become and allowed myself to get without even knowing it. So when I do the exercise and it strikes a chord, there's a reason. And it might be because you've built it up. It might be because, like me, let it go. But that's good. That means that there's meat, there's substance there. So awesome. Thank you. Who else? Chris.
Yeah, so I've actually done this before, and it was interesting doing it again. But the first time, I had the same reaction. I was like, why is he making me do this? I can't give this up. And then you get down to the last one, I'm like, no way. But yeah, it was basically what you said. It kind of really helped me realize how out of whack I was. And then helped me refocus. It was awesome. But then doing it again today, it kind of brought more clarity around, okay, so I've been more in alignment, but I can definitely
I love it. Thank you, Chris, very much. One more. Yeah, JD.
So, I did this exercise, shared it with the table. What I found was most interesting, my last one to let go of was happiness. And I realized that I did that for a long time. I gave up happiness in service to duty, service to family, service to my wife, ex-wife, and I almost lost, I feel like, myself in the process. So it really reaffirmed for me how I need to reclaim that in my life.
Awesome. Thank you very, very much. So for me, what that looked like is that next day, after having my conversation with Reese, I set off on the journey. And by working with Zane, I got real clear on what those values were. I talked about family, I talked about freedom, I talked about adventure, I talked about being of service. So ultimately, through some weird fates, I actually got into the executive life coaching business. Not knowing really what that was going to look like. But fast forward a few years, and all of a sudden I found myself in Canyonlands, Grand Canyon, a high lonesome hut with dads that are powerful business leaders that are struggling with the same things that I'm struggling with, creating experiences for them to connect with their kids and be able to go have these amazing experiences and bond and love one another and find that balance. And you know the coolest part? Can't see it this, I'm too close up. There's Reese and there's Jack. They're in each of them. They're my assistant guides. Jack pulls, 7 years old, he was 6 at the time, he pulls the sled, with all of our gear and the little kids' gear, and he pulls the sled, and then they help lead the little breakouts. In fact, Reese even read a story, beautiful kid story, about what's possible when you believe in yourself. She told that story to kids aged 14 down to Greg Aiden's son, who was 5. Amazing when you get aligned with what matters, the opportunities that come up. So how do I measure success? Well, I measure success by the smiles on my family's faces in our time together. I measure success based on how many times I'm making pancakes for my kids. And what I found is that when I stepped into doing the work that I believed in and was fully authentic in who I was, I found the most amazing clients. And I was able to serve them as powerfully as I possibly could. 6 weeks ago, one of those clients invited me to join their leadership team and be part of their company. They're sitting right back there. My business partners are right back there. How amazing it was to have a client value the authentic work I'd done enough to say, come be part of our family. I think it took us all of about 18 hours overnight, and now we've been working together. And that, to me, is just amazingly exciting and completely aligned with the values that they very well know about me, and I've come to learn about them. So I'd like to finish with a story that's told by Bronnie Ware. Does anybody know Bronnie Ware? Know the name? A few of you? She's a palliative nurse working with typically elderly people in their last days and weeks of life. And over the course of her work, she would very gently ask them, what regrets do you have? What do you wish you could have done differently? And in that very raw and real state, she was able to get the essence of what really matters. And I'd like to read those 5 to you. Number 1, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. This was the most common regret of all. When people realize that their life is almost over and look back clearly on it, it is easy to see how many dreams have gone unfulfilled. Most people had not honored even half of their dreams and had to die knowing that it was due to the choices they had made or not made. Number 2, I wish I didn't work so hard. This came from every male patient I ever worked with. They missed their children's youth and their partner's companionship. Women also spoke of this regret, but most were from an older generation. Many of the female patients had not been the breadwinners. All of the men I nursed deeply regretted spending so much time in their lives on the treadmill of a work existence. By simplifying your lifestyle and making conscious choices along the way, they realized it was possible to not need the income that they thought they did. Number 3, I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. Many people suppress their feelings in order to keep peace with others. As a result, they settled for a mediocre existence and never became who they were truly capable of becoming. Many developed illnesses relating to the bitterness and resentment they carried as a result. Number 4, I wish I'd stayed in touch with my friends. Often they would not truly realize the full benefits of old friends until their dying weeks, and it was not always possible to track them down. Many had become so caught up in their own lives that they had let golden friendships slip by over the years. There were many deep regrets about not giving friendships the time and effort that they deserved. Everyone misses their friends when they're dying. And finally, I wish that I had left myself be happier. This is a surprisingly common one. Many did not realize until the end that happiness is a choice. They had stayed stuck in old patterns and habits. The so-called comfort of familiarity overflowed into their emotions as well as their physical lives. Fear of change had had them pretending to others and to themselves that they were content, when deep within they longed to laugh properly and have silliness in their lives again. Again, I can't thank you for the confidence that each of you have given in the partnership and making such an investment, not only financially, most importantly with your hearts and your commitment to be part of this group. We're honored to have you in our lives, and I want to thank you so much for all that you've given to this group and all that you're giving out into the world. Thank you. If anyone would like the link to that, just leave me a card. I'll send it out to you. To this last Bronnie Ware, 5 Regrets of the Dying. It's also a book. And then lunch is going to be served out in the hallway now. Thank you.